Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens confuse regular customers as employees. And in today's episode, instead of Karens, some managers are making that terrible mistake, and oh boy is it embarrassing. I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. So this is a really old one, like 20 years old, but there was a police report filed, so maybe it's still interesting. Around 20 years back, I worked in hardware support for a corporation. Desktop support, physical network installs, heck, I even did phone system punchdowns. And this is relevant. On this day, I'm on my way home when I decide to swing by my electronics store for a DVD set that had just come out. It had a cool figurine with it. Unfortunately, my favorite color's blue, and I had on a blue blouse. I also had on slacks, with my tag and keycard flipped into my front pocket and a wee wallet stuck in there. I went in, grabbed my box set, and I'm heading towards the checkout when an older man asked if we have this network cable in longer lengths. The guy's cart is filled with different lengths of cable. His son and him were setting up a LAN. I told them I didn't work there, and then added if they wanted to save some bucks, they could make the cables themselves, and then went into a spiel about how to do it and what to get. He was super excited. Cool. In the middle of explaining, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around to see some guy with a button up and a manager's name tag on. He was smiling and polite, and he asked me to come with him. He said he needed to ask me about something, so I went. So we get to the area where the bathroom and the water fountains were, and his smile dropped. Apparently he started as assistant manager 2 days before, and he had been waiting to talk to me. The exact wording is lost to time, but apparently he thought I was someone named Amber who worked there. And since I was late again, as well as advising a customer against a purchase, he was going to have to fire me. Apparently he missed the "I don't work here" part. So I explained that I didn't work there. And as I was doing this, he interrupts me to ask me why I wasn't wearing my name tag, which he would need back. And then he reached down and grabbed my tag, which was attached to an elastic clip. He pulled, and I dropped the DVD set, and out came my tag, keycard, and wallet. So I cursed loudly because he's standing there holding a tag that clearly does not say Amber, and the guy's bleeding all over it. He apparently cut himself when the clip snapped to him, at which point he says something about me scratching him with my nails, and he walks through the doors, still holding my tag and keycard. I scoop up my wallet and went after him. The guy snatched a phone off the wall and he's calling the police. So I'm yelling at this point, "Dude, give me my effing tag back." The idiot assistant manager screamed, "I was just assaulted." Hearing that, of course I freak. The 911 operator probably thought he was being assaulted by the way I was yelling. Finally, I calm down and just stand there with my arms crossed, refusing to move, with him holding my tag over his head like I'm 5 years old. The police show up and we both tell our stories. The older cop pulls him off to the side, and then me. Finally, both cops, him, and I are all standing there. His story is that I was trying to steal the DVDs and I assaulted him when he tried to stop me. The older cop simply asked him, "Then why are you holding her tag?" The assistant manager then looked down at his hand, still bloody, and he starts stammering that he took it so I couldn't leave. At this point, the manager's shown up, and I tell him my story again, and he looked like he'd swallowed a bug. The cop then asked about the employee Amber, and sure enough, she was already on the floor working. I did press charges on the guy. Like, if he had done that stupid crap and then just apologized, it would have been one thing. But he was clearly feeling big in the britches, and when he made a mistake, he decided to lie. All I can say is I hope that guy was fired, guys. Like, seriously. Like, what kind of boss doesn't even bother checking to see if you're an employee? And on top of that, assaults you and then has the nerve to call police. Like, the dude doesn't deserve any position of authority, especially if that's how he treats employees, oh boy. This is a fact. I've never worked at any Walgreens. And this also happened like 10 years ago. And while the conversation is paraphrased, I remember it like it was yesterday. So here's some background. At the time, I was working grave and swing as a casino player's host in Reno, Nevada. For those who don't know what this job is, we take care of the high rollers. We make sure they get comps, dining and hotel reservations, get invites to tournaments, limo rides, you name it. I wore a nice black blazer with a name tag, slacks, comfortable shoes, hair, and makeup done. The days I worked swing, I was off at 3 a.m. But after waiting for a bus and a ride home, I would make it to my place at about 5 a.m. Directly across the street from my home was a Walgreens. I often stopped in a lot of mornings to grab a protein shake, pick up prescriptions, etc. But on Wednesday mornings, they put out a lot of clearance items. You could snag small appliances dirt cheap, so I was always there on Wednesdays, stocking up on Christmas and birthday presents. The employees and manager knew me by sight, and some knew me by name. I was usually a zombie after work, I think like most people. And this Wednesday was no different. I was looking over the latest selection, trying to decide if I needed a new coffee maker or just wanted one because it was clearanced for like $5. That's when I hear a woman who was right next to me speaking Tagalog into her phone. Now I don't speak it, but Reno does have a pretty large Filipino community, so I could at least recognize it. Her language is not important to the story. It just struck me how odd the little things we remember are. The woman finished her conversation and she looks at me and says, "Can I get a discount on this?" Now I don't remember what this was, some small appliance. The woman goes on and says, "The box is smashed up." No idea, I tell her, but I would ask to plug it in and test it before I bought it if the box is damaged. Now I have no idea if anyone can actually do that, but it did seem reasonable to me. The woman then says to me, "Why would you sell something that doesn't work?" she demanded. Honestly, I had no idea at this point that she thought I worked there. I thought she was making conversation, and in my defense, I was half asleep and just wanted a good deal on a damn stick blender. So I say, I absolutely would not sell it, but I am not in the business of selling things anyway. The woman says, "Oh, so you're too good and important to sell things? That's just for the low employees?" That's when I finally look at her. Until then, I was pretty focused on staying awake. I could see the woman was getting angry, and it dawned on me that I still had my name tag on. So I slip it off. These are the kinds with magnets, not pins, and then stuck it inside my pocket. I say to her, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to take this off. I actually don't." Now I started to say that I don't work here, but the woman was having none of that. She says to me, "Oh, you think you're too good to help me just because I'm Filipina?" Now she may have said Filipino, I confess, I don't know which is correct. And I'm only going off on memory. The woman goes on and says, "My money is good, you." She then said something in Tagalog that did not sound flattering. She then says, "You think you can trick me by taking off your name tag?" At that, I just sighed and said, "I don't want your money. I don't work here. I'm shopping. Please leave me alone." The woman ignored everything I just said, and then she said, "Oh, you won't be getting my money because you need to give me this for free, for not helping me." I say to her, "Ma'am, I can't give you that. I really don't work here. If you take it without paying, that's stealing." That's when the woman responds, "Oh, so now you think I'm poor and a thief?" And in my head I'm thinking, what the F? Where did poor come from? She then shouts, "I want to talk to the manager of the whole store." That's when I say to her, "Lady, I wish you would effing talk to anyone but me." Now I didn't swear because I was angry, I just have a potty mouth. And at that, she stomps off, her heels making little tick 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 sounds on the floor. And I decided I did need another coffee maker, and that stick blender. As I was getting both in my cart, I hear tick tick tick, and I'm thinking, great, she's back. But she's not alone. Tom, the store manager, was with her. The woman shrieks, "There she is. She called me a poor thief, and then she said a swear word at me. I want you to fire her and make her poor." Again, I'm thinking, weird obsession with poverty. Tom looked at me confused and said, "What's happening?" I then grinned, held up my coffee maker and said, "I'm shopping." Tom was even more confused and went on to say, "But why are you insulting her and swearing?" I say to him, "She thinks I work here and she wanted me to let her steal an appliance." Now, okay, I know that's a bit of an exaggeration, but she started it. This was the moment that her medication stopped working. In a very loud mix of English and Tagalog, she shrieked out our entire interaction. And surprisingly, she told it correctly too. Except that I didn't put my name tag away to trick her. Tom was done at this point. He looks at me and says, "You're fired." Hearing that, the woman grinned maliciously, grabbed her smashed up box, and she stormed off with Tom, as I struggled and made my way over to the allergy medication. Now I don't 100% remember, but I have terrible allergies, so that does seem likely. At the register, Tom asked me what really happened. I told him everything, including how I told her that I'd wished she'd effing talk to anyone but me. Tom laughed and told me I was still fired, to which I said, yes, do I get a severance package? And that made him laugh even harder. And he said to me, to be fair, you did swear at her, plus you don't actually work here, so no, there's no severance package. And that was it. I shopped there for many years before I moved. I never saw her again, so I'm sure she went on content with me getting fired and making me poor. Guys, the severance part had me laughing out loud the first time I read this. And what is up with Karens just loving employees getting fired and making them homeless? Like, this is not the first time a Karen was like, fire them and make them poor. Like, it's so odd how she was hellbent on OP's absolute financial ruin, guys. So a brief background. I'm Middle Eastern and I live in United Arab Emirates in the capital of Abu Dhabi. I'm a local, but I don't look it as my mom's from Egypt and I would get mistaken for other nationalities. So with that said, on to the story. So my niece got a new pet about a month ago from one of her friends. A 5-month-old German Shepherd, and she's the cutest thing ever in my opinion. Unfortunately, the friend didn't bring enough food for the puppy, so I went the next day to a store nearby to buy some for her. I was told she liked a particular brand, so I decided to go inside without a cart or basket to see if they had it, and then go back out for a cart. On my way to the pet food aisle, I heard shouting and yelling from close by, and out of curiosity, I went to check it out. And I saw one of the workers and a wild Karen. Now, while she didn't look like a Karen, she sure as hell acted like one. The woman was screaming at the poor guy about how incompetent and rude he is and how he was ignoring her when she was trying to get his attention. And of course, she was yelling for a manager. That's when she turned around and she locked eyes with me and she made a beeline to where I was. Now keep in mind, the worker's uniform is a yellow or light blue shirt with a name on it in big letters, and the managers wear full suits. I was wearing black jeans and a dark blue t-shirt. The Karen marches up to me and says, "You, manager, the employee of yours was very rude to me. He ignored me when I was trying to get his attention for 10 minutes, and he's refusing to help me and he yelled at me. Do something." Now, the first thought that came to mind was to tell her that I didn't work there. But after seeing the condition the poor worker was in, I decided to have some fun. I say to Karen, "I'm so sorry, madam. We've had many complaints about this problem worker, and don't worry, I will discipline him. And as a form of apology, please go about your shopping, and at the cash, just give them my name, Roger Patel, and tell them I approved a 40% discount on the total for you." Hearing me say that, Karen scoffs and says, "Huh, at least management knows how to treat paying customers." And it's at that point I went to the worker, grabbed him by the arm, and started walking him away, pretending to berate him until we made a turn and we were out of sight of Karen. And that's when the worker said, "Am I in trouble?" It seems the worker was new and he also mistook me for a manager. The guy thought he was going to be fired. I laughed and said, "Oh no, I'm not a manager and you're not in any way in trouble. I just wanted you to get away from her." And with that, I walked away waving goodbye at him. I grabbed a cart, went on to buy my puppy her chow, and some other things for her and items for myself. After I grabbed what I needed, I made my way to the cashier, and that's when I heard a familiar screaming and yelling. And sure enough, there was Karen, arguing with one of the cashiers and an actual manager. She was trying to convince them that she was allowed the huge discount on all of her items, while I was laughing on the inside. And that's when she spots me. She points right at me and yells, "That's him. That's Roger Patel, the manager who approved my discount, so give it to me." The manager and cashier both looked at me with confusion in their eyes. And the manager says, "Ma'am, this gentleman does not work here." Karen says, "Yes, he does. Why else would he give me a discount? He was even disciplining one of your workers." That's when the manager and Karen make their way to me, and I acted like I didn't know what was going on. Manager points at Karen and says, "Excuse me, sir, do you know this lady?" I respond, No, I have never seen this woman before." Karen screams, "You are lying. I talked to you about that lazy, rude worker of yours, and you gave me a discount as an apology, so honor it." I continue playing dumb and said, "Lady, do I look like I work here? I'm a customer just like you." It was at that moment the poor worker walked by. The Karen points at him and says, "There, that's the worker that I complained about to this manager. Call him over here." The manager then calls him over and asks, "Have you seen this gentleman and this lady before?" The worker looks at me and then at Karen and says, "No sir, I haven't." And Karen loses her mind. She screams, "Don't you lie, I was talking to you 30 minutes ago when you refused to help me." The worker says, "Madam, this is the first time I'm seeing you or this gentleman. Maybe you've confused me with another worker." The manager then nods and tells him to go back to work. And as the worker walked away, he looked at me with a smile, and Karen was fuming, with a face that was redder than a ripe tomato. I then turn to the manager and say, "Sir, you're obviously wearing a suit like all the other managers working here. And I'm wearing casual. Who in their right mind would confuse a customer with a worker or manager?" The manager in agreement nods and says, "I'm sorry to disturb you, sir. Have a nice day." I nod back, then paid for my items and walked away, with Karen still screaming and cussing, until the manager ended up calling security to escort her out of the building. And I went home with the puppy chow, the rest of my stuff, and the biggest grin on my face. Guys, I freaking love this post. And you guys need to share more stories that involve gaslighting Karens. Like, that would be the best thing ever. Oh, and OP does share a picture of his dog. And remember guys, if you send me a story, do not forget the pictures. Y'all gotta pay that pet tax. So on this day, I was at the big store famous for abusing employees. I went in to see what they sold for Black Friday, but I wasn't buying any of their junk either. I was just looking at it. Anyways, I was wandering around looking at junk when I needed to use the toilet. So I wandered into the bathroom, and that's when a psychotic manager comes in and he starts yelling at me saying, "Adrian, I don't know what you think you're doing, but we need you out on the sales floor right now. Hurry up." And then he leaves. Now that's not my name. It's a nice enough name, Adrian, but it's not mine. Also, I do not work there. I don't know anyone who works there. I am also surprised that a manager would follow an employee into the bathroom. Like, there's no reason why a manager should ever yell at their employee that way. And the psychotic manager should know who works there and who's a customer. It's not my job to tell him that. So I didn't say a word. I did not make a sound. I did not move. I just ignored the psycho manager and I looked at my phone. Eventually I left and I wandered around employees that were sent to see what I was doing. I circled aisles, with them following me in a very slow speed chase. I was cutting between racks and pallets of junk, just weaving through the store randomly, with employees mystified or frowning at me as I was evading them. After a while, I decided to leave, so I cut through a closed checkout lane and walked across the front, with the employees not knowing where I was going next, but they were watching me like a hawk. I was amused by the stupid chase. They thought an employee had been goofing off badly, until apparently I left the store unexpectedly. And then we all lived happily ever after. The end. Yeah, so a lot of people are upset at OP for doing this, guys. Like, instead of confronting the manager and letting him know that he isn't Adrian, OP decided to play around and possibly got the real Adrian in a lot of trouble. With that said though, manager or not, I don't think that guy should have been following employees into the washroom and harassing them like that. Like, wait for them to leave and then do what you gotta do. Okay, so this was a few years ago. At the time, I was 14 years old, and me and my family were going to a retail store. I also have minor OCD, and I like to have items neat and organized. When we normally go to stores, my mom doesn't mind that I wander off and fix things that I believe aren't correct. I wouldn't do drastic changes, but I would make the aisle look way better. Anyways, back to the story. So when we got inside, I wandered off. Clothes don't bother me at all, so I don't care if they're thrown around. But I noticed 2 tables of watches completely ransacked. I did what I always do, and began straightening them out to make them look presentable. Now, if I would have known that this would have caused a world of trouble, I would have never touched those stupid watches. So enter the crazy lady. At the time, I was wearing a plain black shirt, jeans, and gym shoes. The only difference in clothes that I had from the employees was my pants and shoes, so I didn't think much of it. The woman soon enough walks up to me and she's standing right behind me, something I wasn't aware of. She then suddenly does one of those fake coughs and I turn around and notice her. Naive me thought that she wanted to look at the watches, so I step aside. not possibly believing a 5'5" kid with a baby face could get confused as a worker. The woman then looked at me as if I was the most stupid person on earth, and what happened next was the most enraging conversation that I've ever had. The Karen says, "Are you not gonna ask what I need?" I say to her, I'm sorry." The woman says to me, "Don't you act stupid, ring me up right here. I don't have time to wait in the lines up front." I say to her, "What? I don't work here, ma'am." She then screams, "Don't lie to me. You're organizing the watches. That's a worker's job. Stop being lazy and ring me up." Now, a thing about me is I have a high patience level, but this was slowly raising my anger charts. But regardless, I tried to hold my nice posture and said, "I told you, ma'am, I do not work here." Karen then says, "You are uneffing believable. You have on an employee's outfit, so stop lying." At this point, she must have had a bad day or something, cause she looked like she wanted to strangle me. That or severe anger issues, probably both. At this point, I'm visibly looking around for my parents, and them not being within eyeshot. The Karen says, "Look at me when I'm talking to you. Ugh, Mexicans have no manners." Now, if I wasn't fuming before that remark, I was fuming now. I'm Latino, and I've only rarely seen anybody racist to anyone where I live. But I didn't want to blow off the handle and cause a scene. Visibly mad, I say, "Look, lady, I do not work." She then cuts me off and says, "Stop giving me excuses. You just don't want to do work, you lazy F. Just wait until your manager hears about this. Heck, I should call the cops on them for employing you. You probably don't even have papers." I knew I should have used the tactic my mom told me when I'm in danger, to just start screaming loudly to get people to notice me. But I wanted to make her so embarrassed of herself for being such a trash of a human. So I gave her the death glare while reaching into my pocket and pulled out my ID. I then saw her eyes widen, the color draining from her face as she realized something I was going to tell her. I was underage. I legally wasn't allowed to work, and she had just harassed a minor. She then looked at me before saying sorry multiple times, begging me to not tell my parents or press charges. She said she was having a horrible day, and I couldn't make out what she was saying because she was sputtering word vomit. That's when my phone rang, my parents telling me it's time to go, and I looked at the woman before saying, "Yeah, I'll be there right now, mom." I then say to her, "Even if I'm not an employee, don't treat another person like that. I won't tell my parents nor press charges. If you're having a bad day, don't take it out on random people. I hope you have a better day." To me, the best part is I never told her I wasn't gonna post this on Reddit. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how you teach people some common decency, and OP did it like a boss. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, it's an r/Petty Revenge episode where OP's nightmare Karen roommate trashes her home and refuses to leave, and OP ruins her. Guys, go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.